Hi, my name's Brian. I'm a freshman at Columbia College Chicago, and the story I have to tell is kind of a dark one, but it's also a happy one for me at the end. So, growing up, I was a very weird kid. I didn't get along with most kids. I was very unsocial. I didn't really like starting conversations with people. And I was constantly being bullied around 3rd or 4th grade, and that continued for quite some time. And I'd come home and I'd feel like crap every single day. I'd rush up to my room. I tried to avoid my parents because if I told them, my dad would say, hit them, and my mom would say, go to the principal and tell on them. And it was like 2 people, screaming at me, yelling at me. So I just tried to avoid it all the time. So one day in around 6th grade, when I was entering in middle school, my dad asked me after school one day if I had wanted to watch a movie with him. And I wasn't really into movies, when I was in the 6th grade. But right around that time, I was just starting to watch more television, a lot of kids programs, but we watched Predator, and that's not really a kids movie, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. I would watch it all the time. I watched Predator for 2 weeks straight because it made me happy. So for 14 days, I would come home, put in the Predator VHS, and I would just sit there for hours watching it. And that's really when my escapism began for cinema. That's when I would just come home and pop in a bunch of different films, and I was really addicted to it. I could not stop. I eventually reached a point where I would rush out on weekends to thrift stores, Goodwill stores, and I would buy VHSs for like 50 cents, and that's really how I spent my days after school. I'd come home, and with whatever movies I bought on the weekend, I'd watch them. And some of my favorite films I watched very early on as a kid. The Godfather was a movie I watched very early in my life, and I've loved it ever since. Gone with the Wind, Citizen Kane, and over the years I became more familiar with Criterion films and indie films, and because of this, it sparked an interest for me in cinema, in directing and screenwriting, in producing. And I mean, it sparked from a really dark place of being bullied, but I don't think I would have the same passion as I do now if I wasn't bullied. I really found myself through film, and because of that, I've learned to really fall in love with it. I even to this day, I watch films that I would have said as a kid I would have never liked. So I eventually branched out into different genres. I really became away from horror movies, which are some of my favorite movies. The crime gangster genre is my favorite. I love those films. And I eventually watched musicals. Something like The Sound of Music is not a movie I would have thought in a million years I would have loved. And it's a great film. It's one of my favorite movies. Gone with the Wind is a great movie I love. Rom-coms, I watch those, and I wouldn't ever think to watch those. And I found some that I actually enjoy. And so to this day, I still love, the modern day stuff as well as the classics, the Citizen Kanes, the Casablancas, the Godfather, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I love those movies. I also like Criterion films. I like cheesy 80 horror films. There's nothing I won't watch. And because of cinema, I've found something I want to do as a career. I really, without being bullied, I would have never found myself. So in a weird way, I kind of benefited from having kind of a rough childhood.